Lesson 1.4 Digital Presentism. The everyday use of smartphones within a context that leads us to interact digitally, often while on the move, but always connected, results in the constant and continuous production of data. Digital networks make information easily available. Information that is increasingly more detailed, precise, and updated at ever fastest rates, fundamentally delineating the temporal frame uniquely as the present. As we have seen, the data recorded constitute the new capital of our society. The formation and growth of that capital has been made possible not only by the spread of smartphones, but also by 5 elements. 1. Simplicity of their use and usability in any situation and moment of life. 2. Exponential growth in the data processing speeds. 3. Enormous size of the repository held by the data centers. 4. Direct, although often unaware, work and participant of the mobilizer. 5. Implicit and often not transparent data collection methods activated by the application to permit their use on mobile device. The apps require a growing number of permissions to access to and use our data. Even the most sensitive personal data. This is something that all too often we tend to neglect. Through sharing, mobilized user predispose textual, iconic, audio and video context that goes to form part of the chaotic palimpsest of the information and entertainment. The large amounts of content produced that populate platforms generates a quantity of data that goes far beyond the dimension we are used to. We have only just come to feel comfortable with gigabytes, and already we must question our knowledge in yet another progressive step that multiply the unit of measurement thousandfold with each step. Thus, we have moved from kilobytes to megabytes, then to gigabytes, to then start speaking of terabytes and petabytes, following by exabyte until zettabytes. The upcoming next step will take us to yottabytes. The enormous amount of data available can only be sustained by user providing that old data, give way to new data in a constant progressive flow that pinpoints the precise moment at which the data are generated and focused attention on that moment in time. The mobilized act of produced data focuses on a continuous present, and while the matter may appear of little relevance at the superficial level, two implications are considerable. Users communicate while at the same time acting, and the memory of what they do, while theoretically available, lies more often than not forgotten in the timelines, in feed and in chat histories of each app, but it's also saved on a storage media of the individual platforms ready to access and process it at any time. For Mobilizer, instead, the data of the past, saved and historicized, are particularly relevant and form the basis on which analysis and interpretation of human behavior can be constructed. Thus, we have another element of asymmetry between those who constantly produce data and information, whose conversational interest is lost as soon as it's replaced by a new post concerning a new present, and those who store in their data centers the history of the entire past of all those conversations and the relative structural data. The attitude and focus of user toward the present is so significant and important that applications and features have been designed specifically to make data available in ever shorter spans of time, from 24 hours in some cases to as little as a few minutes in others. The smartphone app Snapchat lets users share with friends photos and short videos of no more than 10 seconds that are deleted from the receiver feed once they are viewed. Snapchat later introduced the features of publishing stories. Following its example, in 2017, Instagram introduced Instagram Stories, built on storytelling features that would later be adopted by other major global platforms, such as WhatsApp and Facebook. Digital storytelling is a technique that lets people tell their own stories through the use of digital tools. The outcome is a coordinated narrative that integrates videos, images, sound, and words. With Instagram Story, as with Snapchat Stories, the story constructed with the app can be shared by the creator on the feeds of their followers for a maximum of 24 hours, only to then vanish. Users who produce stories can save them for future viewing in a repository known as a history, although their availability is substantially useless for the purpose of social interaction which unfolds and is limited to within 24 hours of their publication. Then Facebook, which in 2012 introduced a new timeline feature to give persistency and continuity to social interaction by historizing communication flows, a development which provoked resistance and much argument from users. Decided to follow the footsteps of Instagram in 2017 and limit the availability of story to just 24 hours. It's paradoxical that even storytelling, a technique for constructing and sharing story that develop chronologically by collecting and unifying the content, enabling the narration and retelling our time, has lost for the public its memorial function, becoming yet another tool for living in the present. The action of the mobilized is contingent and focused on the present, and would appear only natural on the conventional plane. But what is most significant in this approach is the substantial suppression of the past and future, as thought they did not exist. Now, I don't wish to start a nostalgically flavored critical debate on the importance of the past and the unhappy destiny of a society that preserves no memory of its history. That is not the past we are referring to, but rather to the much less significant past of our tribal experiences, which are significantly conditioned by contingent biases, that we are unable to consider and resolve, but which it's useful to free our approach of. It's a past that we have stuffed to saturation with the assertion of our role as prosumers, where we access available information as consumers, but at the same time generate content of greater or lesser significance by exercising the function of producer. A quotidian past that has generated and generates an information overload that by exceed human intelligibility.